Okay, here we go again. Give it another try. If it stops, I apologise because some of my videos, they get cut off and sometimes they don't even start so I'll have to get back to some of them. Sorry about this, I'm trying to get this in. I'm so sorry. Okay, just 1 minute. Yes, as you can see, I'm relatively vulnerable, but anyway, here we go. I'm going to try to start very simply. I'm always going to make the same points at the start, just the same simple points, and then I'll talk about something else. Okay. Point number one. Point number one, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. Human beings are spiritual beings in a physical body. Human beings are really spiritual beings placed artificially, you could say, in this physical body for the purpose of being here on this earth, in this particular domain, in this particular realm. I'm trying to get my own head around it because I'm a little human too, you see, and I'm not that smart. I'm like everyone else. I'm just trying to get to the truth of things, shall we say. And in today's world, or maybe always, truth is always a kind of elusive thing, and truth is sometimes used against us and doesn't often work for us because it is elusive, and there's always going to be contradictions and there's always going to be opposition to it. And I think that is, always been the case, and still is, despite more communication these days. I don't think that makes any difference really, because it's like looking for a religious way of things. It's not something that people can pinpoint. It's like when you believe in different things, different religions and things. It's people put their faith into things, but they can't see it. They feel it, but they can't see it. And this is the point that I'm getting at. See, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. And this is why, we feel these things, because we are searching, a lot of people, for this spiritual connection, shall we say. And most of us don't find it. And I find it elusive too. I actually do. Like I'm talking about this, half knowing it, or thinking that I know it, but I don't always experience it. And I think we are meant to know it and experience it, and therefore know it for real, for a fact, not just kind of mindlessly searching for it, feeling it and saying, oh, I think I'm a spiritual being, I think I must believe in a God, and I must, but not really sure, never really knowing 100% for sure. Not because, we are not in connection, direct contact with even the gods that we would believe in, so this is how it seems to work. But at any rate, I'll go back to the points. Number one, we're spiritual beings put into a physical body, which is should connect us and should make us comfortable, and should make us be aware of the spiritual and be in connection. But see, we are spiritual beings in a physical body, and we are also spiritual beings that are all connected, but we have been disconnected at that spiritual level. That natural connection that we're meant to have and that we should have, and, you know, like I think originally had very strongly, is now almost non-existent today. Now, I'm not saying that it's not still there and that it couldn't be reconnected, but I do not think that that will happen, because we have now found a technological way of connecting. You know, like, in other words, we were all spiritually connected, but now we are technologically connected, if you follow me. And the technological connection is different to the spiritual connection. Now, this is kind of where it gets a bit funny. But if you think about it, and if you take it from my original kind of statement or premise or whatever, that we are spiritual beings in a physical body, you know, in other words, we are spiritual beings. Could I say in a technical body? I don't know about that. No, probably not. But it is kind of technical anyway. Like, the human body is like a computer, but it's a more natural computer. But it's still a computer, I think. You know, at least that's what I've been informed, and I think that this works well with the information I've got and how I think about it. It doesn't disprove the spirit connection at all, because, as I say, we are spiritual beings put into a physical, natural computer-like body, you know, for our time while we are here in this domain on this earth, because you can't, this is how this earth domain operates. It operates on a physical level, you know. So we've come as spirit beings type of thing, you know, and we have to, a bit like we have to operate in this realm, in the physical body, because the spirit does not operate here without the body. It's not a spiritual domain that we're in. We are in an unspiritual domain. We are in a technological domain now. But we are spirit beings. So what I'm saying is that if we, and we're all connected, right? Or meant to be all connected, but we are now not connected spiritually. We are now connected technically. So, you know, I leave this to you to think about or to decide for yourself, like, if we are spirit beings, and I say if because that's for you to decide too, and we are now connected by technology, technically, rather than spiritually, what do you think about that? Like, does that match? And, you know, if we are spiritual beings and we are connected spiritually by an invisible technology, but it's not technical like the stuff that I'm using here now. That is totally different to the human thing. That is the opposite. And it's the actual opposite. Technology is the opposite to spirit. So we now operate as spirits through technology. Okay, and why is that? That is because this domain, this earth, is a technological domain. It is ruled by technology completely. It, the governing God, shall we say, the power that controls this whole domain is technology, and the God force, total control, total powerful, all-powerful, God Almighty, you could say, is technological. This God is a God that we worship, but we worship him indirectly rather than directly. He is in all the religions, but he is not the God of the religion. In the sense that, well, how could he be? In the sense that, as you know, if there's just the one God, but all the religions that we worship, like whether it be Christianity, I don't know, Buddhism, Muslim, Hindu, I don't know all the religions, but they all worship different entities as their God figurehead, shall we say? Is that how I would put it? You know, like I come from the Christian thing because I'm here in Sydney, Australia, so this is more, you know, my background is Christian. You know, like that was what I would have been indoctrinated with, you know, since I was born. You know, even though I am talking about spirituality, I'm not actually talking about the religions. I'm not bringing any religion into it. I will talk about Christianity at times because only because I now realise that it is a good history, and that also that there is great importance in the figure of Jesus Christ. But I have to be very careful in how I put that across, because it's a sensitive thing, but also I wouldn't want people to misinterpret what I would even say about it, you know. And but like I say, the true God of this actual domain, this actual earth, and even more than that, but I say more, but I didn't say all, I just said more, okay? Because I can't, you know, because if you're talking about limitless, because, you know, when you talk about kind of space type of thing, it's limitless, so, you know, and so, you know, I'm not going to go there because, you know, even in Christianity, we do have the different forces, you know, we do have the different, you know, we do have, you know, things that work against that kind of thing too. But like I say, the actual religion that is here on earth, all the religions really are operating through the one God anyway, even though most people are not aware of it. In other words, you know, that, and whether that matters or not to people, that will be for them to decide in the future, if they haven't already decided. There are some people, no doubt, that probably worship a lot more directly to the true God, shall we say. By that, when I say the true God, I mean you know, what is a God? As I've said this before, like, it depends on your terminology for God even, which probably sounds ridiculous. Most people probably think, oh, the God means that they created, what, everything? I'm saying that the God that rules our domain, from my knowledge of it, created this earth realm domain that we see as reality around us. You know. Now, you know, you know, you'll have to make of that what you will. He created this earth reality that we see around us, that we perceive to be reality. You know, that is his creation. And most religions, he operates through most religions on this earth. But most of the people that are in the religions do not worship him directly. Because, as I say, if you look at the figureheads of all the different religions, they appear to be different entities, don't they? You know, in other words, one might be, you know what I mean, don't you? Because you know that all the different religions, they don't actually worship directly what they think is the same God. They might have similar ideas, and they might even acknowledge the other God-like, you know, like some religions might acknowledge Jesus Christ, but they don't worship him as the sole figurehead like Christianity does, you know what I mean? That sort of thing, you know. But what I am saying is that you know, all religions really worship the one God that created this domain, even though they would not, that they would have an image of a Jesus Christ or something in their head, but they're actually, you know, he's merely the figurehead of Christianity, you know, not really what they are actually directly worshipping, because it is the one God that rules the earth. And if it is the one God and all the different religions are worshipping different figureheads, then, you know, it must be that he's operating through all the religions, because I don't think anyone is saying that this world is ruled by half a dozen gods, you know. And but it doesn't matter anyway, because you could say it's the controlling force that rules our reality in every single aspect. Now, some people might beg to differ on that too, because they might say, well, the gods don't directly intervene or have direct access to us, and we do not. Well, I think that's another thing too, where things are a bit different to what I would think that I would have thought too, that actually there is direct contact between the God and us. It's just that we're not aware of it, but it does have direct contact, 100%. You know, in fact, it's not like this God that come here and then disappeared type of thing. I don't think. No, it's always there, all the time. But anyway, I'll get back to my points, and then I might make my little story if I've still got some time, because I prefer to tell a little story, something personal, and hope that you might get some concept out of it. You know, because I think that's how I would relate to things. You know, all these bigger concepts which are new to me, even it's very hard to relate to them unless you actually have experienced them and actually see them firsthand. See, I'm not a particularly brilliant person at all, as I've said before. I only know this because of direct, accidental personal experience. So I haven't sorted out, I'm like everyone else, I haven't sought out the answers or the religions or anything. It's merely been thrown at me almost, and so that's why I'm communicating it. But it's not something that I've searched for all my life. I've been in the dark most of my life like everyone else. That's how I look at it. Totally in the dark and totally in the wrong direction all the time. And that's why, you know, your life amounts to nothing, and you're, you know, sitting here like now and thinking, what a mess almost. But, you know, and realising that you almost can't get out of the mess. But, you know, I might not be able to get out of the mess, but maybe some other people might if they think this way. I don't know. I think it is how it is, but whether, you know, us as human beings can now adapt to the change. Because, like I say, put the points here. I'm trying to get the points because, like I say, I'm not one of you good talkers or any of these. Some people do really good stuff. Some of you, you know, more brilliant minds that do videos on all these things. If we are spiritual beings in a physical body who are all connected spiritually, or should be, but now operate by connection, by technology, and as we are in a totally technological world, and I think most people would agree with that anyway, whether you believe that the God that rules is totally technological and this is his domain and that is how it all operates, that's another thing. But no one would deny that we do not live in a technological world and that we are totally ruled by technology, because the internet, you know, and, you know, it's just common sense, isn't it? You don't have to be smart to figure that out at all, do you? No, it's there. Everyone, and most people, I don't know, most people use it and they like it and they think it is good. You know, I guess the things that I'm saying, I'm just saying, if we are spiritual beings, but we now operate through technology, that is different, isn't it? So, you know, I'm going to leave that for you to make of it what you will and to think about that. But also, another point number 3, I think it is, I'm trying to remember the points even, because these are the points that I'm just going to keep making, because they're the basics of it all, even though they're extremely hard to comprehend. And even I say this, even though I'm saying it, I don't comprehend it, you know, because I have only just realised it. It's only just come to me. It's only just been downloaded, you could almost say. But that's the problem, is that we are now downloading. I shouldn't say the problem. Well, look, I don't want to say the problem, but this is how we operate now. We do not download. We are downloading all the time, but we are downloading through technology. The technology downloads to us. Now, if you think that you're a technological being, you know, if you think that you're not a spiritual being, then that's fine, because you will be okay, I guess. But if you really are a spiritual being and you're downloading technology, or downloading via technology, or technology is totally your mind, shall we say, you know, I don't know, is that a natural thing? Is the spiritual meant to operate technologically? Well, obviously I was saying at the start that we were all connected spiritually, but that is now being disconnected, because if you don't, also you must remember this too, and this is where I've failed in my life, right? If you don't believe this, in other words, if something is a fact, like if we are spiritual beings in a physical body, and we are all meant to be and should be, and we're naturally connected spiritually by an invisible cord, you could say, the same as technology operates, the stuff that we now use, but we had a natural version of it. You know, we didn't need a computer, we didn't need all these gadgets. No, it just was there. Now, this is what I'm saying, and you either think it's right or you don't. You know, I'm just saying it, you know. But that connection that was originally there has been now replaced by the artificial technology, because that's artificial. That's a mechanical devices. You can get that, because humans are not mechanical. The devices are mechanical. The internet and all that stuff is artificial. It's not a natural thing, whereas I'm saying spirituality is a natural thing. And if we were spiritual beings, that would be natural. But if we are not spiritual beings, if you don't buy that and you don't believe it, and you don't even entertain that idea, then the technology would seem perfectly natural to you. You'd say, well, okay, I'm really a technological being, so therefore it is natural for me to be downloading from technology and to be using that. And, you know, and that's a viewpoint, okay? Okay. But the other main point is, and this is probably the hardest one to grasp, certainly for me, and I still do not fully grasp it. I see it operating even in non-spiritual people, strangely enough. In other words, I see this actually happening in front of me in human beings that they would consider themselves to be just logical, intellectual, technological type people who have no spirituality, who do not believe in anything past what they see, think, taste, smell, all that, the real world. They do not think there's anything past what this domain is, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, they probably wouldn't even be very religious, you know. They would need proof of everything. Everything has to be scientific type of thing. But I have seen this last thing actually operate, only in very small ways, because once again, as we are spiritual beings in a physical body, all connected but now disconnected because we operate now technologically. Actually, we were disconnected long before technology anyway, for the reason that the God that rules is technological anyway, and so he doesn't operate that way. In this world, we are almost in an alien world, you could say, really, because that's if you think that we are spiritual beings. If you don't think that, then we're aliens in an alien world and we're perfectly at home. So this is up to you, you know. But the third point is, and this is what I would consider to be, for me, I would say it's beyond words, and it's something incomprehensible almost, and it's unbelievable. But it puts human beings into a category that they are not in now, and that they themselves would not see themselves in. But but this is what I've been led to believe, and what I cannot practice it myself, because our powers are now very limited. You know, because what I am trying to say is that, put it simply this way. Supposing I had some great ability, right? But I do not believe in that ability. I believe only in the physical realm. I only believe in the technology. I only believe in what I can see and what I'm told and what is scientific, that type of thing, you know what I mean? Because spirituality is really different to science. Science and spirituality really don't mix, and they never had, and I think most people would agree with that, you know, that because science requires proof, whereas spirituality, there is no proof. You know, unless you experience it, there's no proof. You can't put it under a microscope, you know. I mean, at least not in our world anyway, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but not with the technology and the way we look at things and the way we deal with things, you know, because we don't understand things very much. I don't think. I admit that I don't understand things. But I think that what I am shown, also I do not understand, but also I do not believe. You know, I do not think that science has any great answers to much at all. But that's just me, you know. But anyway, the point is that human beings, and this is the big thing, and I know I should be saying it faster, and I'm trying to, human beings, human thought creates physical reality. Human thought creates physical reality. Now this is very, very deep and big in a way, because if you do not know this and you do not believe it, then it is useless to us. And I'm saying that human beings, human thought creates physical reality, but they do not know it. So they have handed over their thought to the technical world we live in a way. Because if you have a power, but you do not believe that power exists, it's useless to you. So you are creating reality with your thought, but you are unaware that you're doing that, just as I have been and just as I still am, because we do not even have control over our full spiritual being, our full minds now anyway. So, you know, because what I'm trying to say is supposing I've tried to use an example, right? And this is it's kind of, it's very sad in a way, because it really means that, like, if I'm thinking, and I'm doing this all the time myself, so this is why I'm upset, because basically it's like knowing something, But at the same time, I still haven't got the control over it, because it's no good having an ability or a power or whatever you want to call it if you do not have full control over it, if someone else has control over it, or if you know what I mean? It's a bit like, you know, if you're in a relationship, if you're in that relationship and the other person is controlling you, you know, you're powerless and you're under that spell almost, you know. So I'm trying to say this: human thought creates physical reality, but if we do not know that, and we think that reality is just something that is created either by our hands, shall we say, physically, because we do that too. Obviously we do that too, and that comes from a thought, but we think that we have to have the thought and then do it with the hands and do it at a practical, technical level. I'm saying that human beings create their reality with their thought only, or they can. But it'd be a bit like, I've seen people around, and I've said this before, I don't have this myself, but we all should have these things. But like I say, because of the world we now live in, and because we have changed down through the centuries and years, we've changed. We've lost a lot of our abilities. We've given over to our mind to a more practical world, you know. So we're not spiritual. We don't operate spiritually, even though I think we are spiritual beings. So this is the trick, and this is the danger, and this is, you know, this is, like I say, if you don't believe it, then fine, because then you're on the right path. But if this is the truth, then we're on a different path. And, you know, we're getting further away from what we really are. And we're also not using what we have either, if you want to look at it that way, at all. Because if human thought creates reality, but we do not believe it, therefore we are creating it by our thought. And what I'm saying is, but we don't know that, because we don't have control of our thoughts anymore. So if I'm thinking, even subconsciously, because that's another thing too, which I don't understand, but we all know there is the conscious and the subconscious. So in other words, if you were thinking, like I might be talking really sweet and nice to you now, but what if subconsciously I'm angry, because I am actually a bit angry, you know, then that anger could be creating a bad reality, because I haven't got control of it, and because I'm unaware that this is even what happens. And also because human beings are all connected, but they're disconnected. You see, the situation that I'm trying to get across is that if this is true, we are all in a very big pickle, because spiritual beings, the physical body, all connected, their thought creates reality. But we are in a world that is where the connection is disconnected. The wires are, you know, very worn and not in use. We are all one, but we all operate separately. Because you say, well, you know, I mean, I'm saying that because if it's the spiritual connection is gone, we're not using it. We do not think it even exists. We operate through technology, okay? So, you know what I'm saying? So therefore, and yet our thought creates the physical reality. So do you see what I'm trying to say? Because to me it seems like a big muddle. It's like, good God, what is going on? How can it really means we do not have control of anything, if that's the case? But that's only if you look at it that way, right? It's only if you have to have that premise at the start. Spiritual beings, all connected, now disconnected, their very thought creates the world. Look at the world. What are we creating? What have we created? Has it improved? Will it improve? I ask you these things because I'm not going to say what I think, because a lot of people, because see, if you think that you are just a physical, technical type being, then you're going to think the answers lie in that direction. And but I say this is just, and regardless of whether I would say this, regardless of whether I had now thinking that, yes, we are different to what we thought, even if I thought I was just a basic little physical human being in this physical body, living in a technical world, which I operate in, even if I believe that, I would still say to you right now, look at this technical world. Where is it going? Is the world in a great thing? Are we using technology to clean anything up? You know, I mean, personally, this is, you know, this is what, I mean, I could be wrong. I personally think that if we really had full control and better technology and actually had more control and power over it, we could use technology maybe to completely clean up the planet, almost, you could say, or the earth, because I don't want to go there either, because different people seem to have different ideas about that now too. I say it's a fantasy world anyway. It's a world run by technology. It's not a world under our control, and it's not the world as we think it is. It is an illusion world. That's what I think anyway, which would have kind of fitted us if we accepted the fact that we were spiritual beings, because then at least we could take more control of it. Because if our thought creates reality, we should all, and if we're all connected, we actually all should be able to totally create the world of our dreams in a way. But you see, that connection has to be a trust with every other human being on the planet, on the earth. You know, and that was what probably originally was meant to be, and what is how it is, but that's not how we operate now. We're all separate. We operate through technology. I think even the best of us on the planet, on the earth, see, old habits die hard. I've been indoctrinated with the planet stuff. Whichever way you look at it, may well be right or not. I'm not going to go there. But what even the words we say and what we, because I'm saying that I don't actually now operate that way. I do not tend to operate in the knowledge that I have been that I believed in for a long, long time. It's a bit like changing your religion almost, you know. It's like, wow, I don't believe in that anymore, you know. So that's just me. But where am I? I've lost it. So what I'm saying is that if we were all connected, we would be able to see all these things, and also we would trust every single human being on the planet, and I mean without exception, because I think that even now there are a lot of very loving human beings, more loving than me. I don't consider myself the most loving. I've become aware, but I've always been very separate, more separate than most people. So this is why this boggles me. So don't think that I'm coming from some sort of great spiritual background and that I'm this little delicate person, kind person that loves everyone. No, you know, I'm not. I'm more fallible than most people. But I'm saying this is what I now to believe to be the truth. Not even what I want to believe. Not even what I would have thought was possible, or not even what I would have remotely thought was real. But what I'm saying is that even now, even the most kind, good people, and you do see some, they would still have prejudice against some people in this world, because if you're a good person, you tend to dislike what isn't good too. You know what I'm saying? You know, like if you get, I know myself, if I see some sort of cruelty or something, I'll get angry about it. So basically, that is then when I will be against the cruelty, and then against the people that I see participating in it. So that, and yet that is also not how we were meant to be, because we're all really connected. You see, it's not the fault of people that behave like this, because they are disconnected, just as I've been. It's very hard to stop someone behaving a certain way and doing the wrong things if they're operating under the idea, the belief, or the what they think is normal, that everything happens because of the environment. And if you were born into a bad environment and you were oppressed, say, by other people, then you're going to hate or dislike those other people. It's just natural. You're not going to all of a sudden say, wow, I'm a spiritual being, I should love my enemy. You know, I mean, there again, we sound religious doing that. There was certain individuals who did preach that or practice that and preach it, because there's no good preaching it if you don't practice it. And that's probably the hard part. It's easy to preach. It's easy for me to sit here and say all this stuff that I'm saying. It doesn't mean I'm practicing it. And I'm not, I can tell you, because I get, you know, you're not supposed to get angry and hateful, and I get that way. You know, I know these things to be true, I think, but I don't practice them all the time because I'm not at that high level. Because I am disconnected, even though I know we should be connected, I also am still completely disconnected from every human being on the planet. I think we should be connected, and I know we were meant to be. This is my information as I got it now, but I'm not able to do it even if I wanted to, because they're not open to it and they don't believe in it. You know, so you know what I'm saying? So this is the problem. Instead, people are now connected by mobile phones and things. Now, some people might say, what's the harm in that? At least they're connecting. And, you know, I don't have an argument. Well, I probably could put forward different views on that, but and I'm not going to go there today, because otherwise the video will be going for 100 years, which it already has, because I was just going to make the good points. But it's a different type of connection. And as you know yourself, you choose who you ring on the mobile phone. You're not connected to every other human being on the planet. And also, you might be using that mobile phone to argue with someone on the other side of the world, or even send hate stuff, because we do that too, don't we, with the technology. But hey, that's another thing too. This is no one's fault. It's not my fault, and it's not your fault. As I've said before, and I think I said it did, I think I got cut off, because I'll be lucky if this video even doesn't get cut off, or if it's even going. But, you know, the technology doesn't always work in our favour either. It certainly doesn't always work in mine anyway. But anyway, forget that. That's the only way you can operate now anyway. Okay. So what I am saying is that, I've lost my train of thought. You know, we are, okay, we're spiritual beings in a physical body, all connected, but not aware of it, disconnected, unable to even connect. We use technology now to connect. This is both, you know, got its advantages and disadvantages. Is it natural for us? Is it beneficial for us? And also, we are now reliant on it. So, you know, what can we do about that? And is it possible? And is it in our interest to go back and start again? Now, how do you do that? You can't, you know, that's not going to be, you know, because you see, we're now in, the world is technological, but we are like fish out of water, I think. That's how I see it. And literally, because if we're spiritual and yet we're in a totally technological world, and it's ruled, and that is the actual natural domain anyway, because the God himself is technological. That is like, it's like, why are we in this technological domain, and why have we chosen it? Because we have chosen it too, because it hasn't always been as technological. So obviously that is a choice, because we do not believe in anything else. And also, even if we did believe in something else, we tend to think that the technology is okay for us to be merging with it, and it's fine, that somehow or other it is just a separate thing and that we can just use it. But what I'm trying to say is that if those points I made are true, particularly if human thought creates reality, I guess what I'm saying is that if those basic premises were true, we actually shouldn't really have needed any technology, at least not in the way that we have it now, and not on a massive world scale, and not like, we shouldn't need internet or anything like that, should we? I mean, I'm not saying that, that we can't have some appliances and things that might be for our benefit or our convenience, really. And even this, I don't really know. I only know that I'm use them and need them as much as everyone else. So, but this is kind of like the world that we've set up for ourselves, because we've set up a technological world, and and we need it and we're dependent on it. So it's it'd be a bit like saying, oh, if you could fly, you wouldn't need an aeroplane or a train or a car or or anything else, would you? You wouldn't. But if you didn't know you could fly, then you would have to use an aeroplane, a train, a car, which actually damages, as you know, the actual natural earth, or at least what is the natural earth as we perceive it to be. How natural it really is. I believe that it's a very strange world that we live in, because I do believe it's not a real world in a way, but at the same time there is an organic part to it, which is kind of the same as us, you see. Like, we are spiritual beings, which is kind of more organic. We're not really technological. But you see, it's very hard for me to, in today's world, the way things are, this is what I find very distressing in a way, only because, because it's hard for me to put these points across even, or to even say them, because the world we live in is so technological and so different to that. It's almost impossible for us to think past what we're used to and what we know. It's impossible for us to perceive of a world without this and how it would have went. We don't think that it would have been any good, because we can't perceive that we are different to that, shall we say. I did have the thought there of how to explain that better, but I've lost the thought, because we're continuously under bombardment, I think, by the technology. Like, we're not operating natural enough to where we can even communicate very well. I find this is what I think. And because see, another thing which I didn't mention, but it's going to make the video long. As I said before, we live in a duality world. The God that rules the world, it's not just that it's a technological world, a technological domain, but it is ruled by the mental attitude of duality. That means the love-hate thing going. Always the opposition. And this keeps the world in the state it is, to where we... there's always conflict because of this. It's very hard to explain, but at the same time, I see it in a daily basis. I've seen it all my life on a daily basis, and I didn't understand it, though. I really didn't. I knew that I saw the love-hate, and more times hate than the love, but it's like everything is an opposing force. There's a real opposite thing going on in this world. Now that I think also is because of the points that I mentioned, because spiritual beings trapped in a physical body, unaware that they're spiritual, unaware that they're all connected, that they're all part of one. But when I say that, don't forget that I'm still saying, like, I'm here now and I'm a little piece of the one. But I still have great significance and importance. You know, you don't have to be prominent, you know, like when you know what I'm saying. You know, like you could feel like myself, like you're right down the bottom of the social thing, and you're right down on the lower levels, and you're like a little ant in this big world in comparison when you look round. But that's all a falsity. That's all to make people think that, so that we are not aware that we're connected and that we're spiritual beings, I think. You know, I've lived that way all my life, always envious, always thinking, oh, I'm not much, I'm, you know, and always making the wrong choices, always, you know, this is part of the duality in the world. It's a setup, because it is a technological system. The whole world is like a system. It operates under all these systems, under all these thought processes, under all these way of thinking, and opposites always. There's always that. There's truth there, but it's always counteracted with so much other stuff. And I think it's almost like a test, but because we're spiritual beings, it is actually a test, but we're not aware that we're spiritual beings, so we don't think we're being tested. I mean, I've been aware through my life, even though I did not acknowledge any of this, that I had been tested. But at the same time, I always failed the test, every time. Always went for the wrong choice. And even though I half knew that I should have made, I always went for the practical choice, for what was safe for me. It now turns out that being safe in this world does not guarantee your safety. It might buy you a few years, but it won't buy you, if the real reality is different to that, to what you think, and you make the safe wrong choice just because it serves your physical body, which is how we operate, you know, survival mode type of thing. That's how we operate on this planet, survival mode. You know, it will not serve you down the track, and it won't even guarantee that even while you're in this earth domain, that you will necessarily have a great life, or that you will even go a real long distance. And don't forget that if we're spiritual beings, it's quite possible, more than possible, likely, and probably a fact, I would imagine, even though I don't feel it myself right this moment, that this spirit that's put into this physical body, it is just a blink in an eye. But for us, it seems an eternity. And for most of us, I know myself, I believe that's all there was. And that I've got to survive another day, because this life is all I've got. My body is all I've got. And that's what we have been led to believe, even though I know most religions probably try to teach different to that. But as they are really operating in this physical domain and in this technological type world, I do not think that is very likely that a lot of them are really quite onto it. Some might be, you know, like, I'm not talking about every individual on the planet, but the fact that we are all disconnected leads me to believe that there would only be a few that are probably actually spiritually at some proper level, shall we say, I would think, you know. And even they would be operating solo, wouldn't they? They'd probably have to be. And how can you operate solely when you're really a part of a whole? You know what I'm saying? It'd be like, how can a piece of a puzzle really work very well if it's separated from all the other pieces which make up the whole picture? Does that make any sense? I know I'm being very flowery type of thing in trying to pick. I try to pick things so that, you know, so that even I can comprehend it, and so maybe you can too. Because if you just say things, it doesn't always make sense in a way. Whereas if you sort of say, well, look, I'm a piece of a bigger puzzle, but all the pieces have been thrown away and I'm just left solo, because I think that the beings that are spiritually high on this planet, I'm sure there are some. I'm not one of them, I have to admit, but I'm aware though. There's a difference between knowing something and being aware of it and actually attaining it. You know what I'm saying? It's a bit like well, I was going to go onto the Christian religion part of that in a way. It'd be a bit like saying, well, most Christians aspire to be like Jesus Christ, because that was the idea, but none of them usually attain it. They're aware that was what he was trying to tell them. You know, be like him and become spiritually aware. I think that was what he was trying to say, you know, even though I'm not going to go into religion, as I've said before, because I think that is not how this world really operates anyway. Like, we have those religions, but the ruling, the God of this domain is not the same as, that's still separate from the actual God presence that controls and operates this actual earth. You know, that's under his domain and his, because it's his creation. I think, you know, it's, you know, and you'd say, well, isn't that like, oh, see, there again we're going to get tricky, because if you then sort of say, but wasn't it supposed to be the God, and then he sent the Son and he created everything? Well, I guess I'm saying that may not be the case, that our domain is separate, that's a different story, shall we say. But if you just take it at that basic level of even that religious concept that we're spiritual beings, because that, I think, is the essence, then the rest will probably come to you. You know, no doubt it'll start to come to me, because it's coming to me a little bit, you know. So then you will have to have a bit of knowledge as well. You will have to search a little bit out. You know, I've sort of been forced to. But even if you did go a purely, naturally spiritual, religious route, you'd probably be still on that same path in a kind of way, maybe. So, you know, so that's not such a bad thing for that, because, you know, because like I say, if it is true, and if it's a fact, you know, in other words, if a being is really a spiritual being, and that is actually a fact, and when I say a fact, I mean you could almost say, you know, like I say, science is non-existent to me. It's not existent. But if you want to, if I'm appealing to other people's way of looking at things, because this is how I would have looked at things in the past, I would have had to say, everything has to be tested scientifically. Everything has to be proven in a certain scientific way. I'm saying that science doesn't know how to test things. That's what I'm saying. This is what I now think. I think science is good. It operates very well under its own limited premise. But I'm saying that spirituality operates at a totally different thing. It's on a higher level. It goes beyond science. It's nothing to do with science. Science is like mediocre next to spirituality. That's what I'm saying, because spirituality is the truth, the real truth, if you are a spirit being, whereas science is limited by comparison. So even if there was some truth in science, which there's some truth, but it's like knowing about a grain of sand, not the whole beach. It's almost useless, and yet it appears to be so significant. And it actually probably is more of a distraction or more of something that actually is not really going to benefit a spiritual being in a way, you know. But as we do live in this technological world, which is totally governed by it, it almost becomes a necessity to operate that way, which is kind of, that probably doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of like, once again, it's very hard to explain it. Even for me, it's hard to get my head around it. But if we are spiritual beings and we're operating in this technological world, then that has changed us. It's changed our natural, spiritual, natural kind of being. In other words, we're now even a bit of a different type of being. And so it's very hard unless you were really a very advanced spiritual being. And like I say, that would be very hard for most human beings to be, because in light of those things that I mentioned, how can you even be at the higher level? It would take I'd say that maybe some that came here to Earth in the past might well have been a higher spiritual being. You know, I'm not going to mention names, although I have, you know, bring up religion. And maybe those few were the higher spiritual beings that were able to transcend this technological kind of construct that we live in, that changes us and makes you know, is operating different. We're at that opposition, and this is the duality of the world that the God wills. Now, whether maybe it's, you know, I was only thinking just today that maybe that's how it's meant to be. I kind of doubt it because I don't like it, but at the same time, it could be that it's a lesson, that we're meant to be faced with this duality, that it's a test, that we're meant to be able to somehow see these things. And, you know, because isn't that, like, if you want to go biblically, you know, someone came and was telling us, you're all wrong, everything is wrong in the world, follow me, I am the way, the truth, and the life. See, I'm not religious, but hey, that rings true. I am the way, the truth, and the life. In other words, this world is not the way, the truth, or the life. And it's a test for you to realise that, or to see it, or to be able to discern, I guess. But if you keep, like myself, if you keep over a lifetime, keep making the wrong choices, keep letting all the bad stuff in, and thoughts create reality, then you have the domain that we live in. You know. So that's it. I was going to give you a little story, but I'm actually quite exhausted, so I might have to close off and make another video if this one's even recording. I do hope so. I know I've taken up a lot of your time, and if you've turned off, that's fine. I wouldn't blame you. I'm very long-winded. It's a long video, it's exhausting, and I don't have it very concisely put. And I apologise for that. I just hope that some people might resonate with something, get something out of it, or think about it anyway. Even if you think that everything I say is total rubbish, you know, and you don't think that way at all, and you like the world the way it is, and you like this or you like that, or you don't, you know, that's okay. You know, just think about it. That's all I'm saying. You know, I know that it is impossible in this world, and it's even, like I say, I think these things, but I don't operate in it either. So I'm actually worse off than most of yous out there, because at least if you're happy with the world and you like this domain and you are happy with the things around you, whereas I'm like, I can't get to use the spirituality. I believe in it, but I can't use it. So I'm actually worse off. I'd be better off if I was probably like you, where I say, hey, yeah, I'm happy to go down the opposite path. I'm happy to go down, you know, the path that humans are now heading, and operate that way. We now operate all connected, but we are not connected. It's a hive mind, exactly the same, which was something that I found very disturbing when I first heard of it, and I didn't even believe it, because I didn't want to be a hive mind. I wanted to be this individual because I'd always been a loner, and inside, so I'm uncomfortable with all this truth, but I do believe it to be true. We do have a hive mind now, but the hive mind now is connection through this total network technology world that is a total construct that is all technology. The whole world is technology. Whereas I'm saying that if you're a spiritual being, that was not how we were connected. It's a different thing. That's I guess what I was saying. But like I say, I'm aware of that myself. I think it, but I'm not able to connect spiritually because people are now connected. People don't connect mentally anymore. That ability is not there. They connect by an appliance. And they think that is how humans are meant to be. And they're happy to go down that path. I say, they're probably luckier than me because I'm saying that I want to go back down another path. But I can't even do it because the humans are not open to it because they now connect through technology. They don't connect through a spiritual, natural thing that I think has now, it's probably still there. But like I say, it would have been out of use, and if you don't believe in something, you're not going to use it anyway. If you don't believe that you can fly, you're going to use an aeroplane. But if you could really fly, but you didn't believe that such a thing was possible, you would always take an aeroplane. But, that's just an example. But what I'm saying is that would it make sense for you to get an aeroplane and fly if you could fly just yourself? I know this sounds ridiculous and most people will laugh, and I know, but it's an example. I'm trying to put the point across by it. It could even be true for all I know. Anything's possible because if thought creates reality, and we were all a hive mind and all operating together because one person can't do it on their own. Only very powerful individuals can do it on their own. And even they could still, perhaps, I'm not sure how much they could really do. But like I say, if you really could fly, but you use an aeroplane, would that make sense? I mean, only if that was the truth, because obviously if it's not true, then it's ridiculous and you're laughing at me. But if you really could fly and you use an aeroplane as an example, that would be the joke, wouldn't it? Because the aeroplane would be archaic, noisy, dangerous, slow, no control over it, time-consuming, poisonous, the fumes and stuff that is let out of it, contributing to a bad world, a noisy, ugly, archaic, backward world. If what I said, the former was true, if we could fly and we were using something like that. That's just, these are just things to think about. But like I say, you'd have to operate and know that, because if that was possible but you needed the power, the power of one. See, we are operating these days, strangely enough, with all these ideas that are true, but we're not operating the way they were meant to be with these ideas. In other words, this all is one thing, this hive mind, this everyone getting together and doing things together. But it's all through technology. It's not natural. It's not where we're getting any true power. In fact, we lose the powers, the proper powers, and then are directed down certain paths where we operate in this duality world where we have to make a choice. And if we're using the technology, well, we will go down the choice of the technology. And by that I mean that if we use the technology, what the technology tells us we will do. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say by that? I mean that like we will use the technology to make our decisions, that rather than spiritually making the decisions, shall we say, because if we're spiritual beings, we should be making all our decisions spiritually. But if we have become technological beings, practical beings, intellectual beings, and I use these words because I would personally say that if someone is a very highly evolved spiritual being, as all human beings should be, but we're not. And I'm not sure that there would be, to be quite frank, if we are all connected, and we can't actually connect, I'm not sure that any human being on the planet could perhaps be at their top level. I don't know about that. That's there again. This is all mind-boggling, but at the same, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not like we're individuals. We're individuals, but if we're all part of the one, we really need to be operating because if we were operating as one, but we're individuals, as one, we would all be brilliant because we would have, like the internet, all the information from all the other minds. But instead we've got the internet, which gives us all the information from all the human minds, shall we say. But they are not spiritual minds, they are technological minds. It's all part of the system. And so, something to think about. I'm too tired to go on. I could go on for hours and go into details, but it's too much overload even for me, and I'm sure it's too much for you. But think about it anyway. That's what I'm saying, is that regardless of what you think or what path you think we should, because everything is a decision every second. That's something I now realise, which I did not realise over my life, even though that's why your life ends up down the plug hole, should we say, like mine, because you don't realise that every little decision that you make, even when you don't make a decision, even if you just let things slide, which is another thing I've done through my life, doesn't make the world stop. You think if you let things slide and if you do nothing, that the world will just freeze and stop and it won't go backwards or forwards. But in reality, you'll just be swept along by it, because if you don't make a decision, as the old saying goes, someone else will make it for you. And this world will definitely make it for you, and the technology will make it for you these days. So, if you believe that knows more than you, then, fine, that's where you'll go. Good night. Good. See you. Maybe I'll make another one if I'm still here.